can I be cremated and go to heaven? And a lot of people have concerns about this, which I think growing up in some denominations you might. In the Old Testament, cremation was associated with pagans, right? In the Old Testament, all the people of Canaan burned their dead. And so it kind of became this thing where you shouldn't cremate because that's what the other nations do, right? All of the Old Testament, especially Exodus, right, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, are the ways that God's people will be different from the nations around them. And I think it's kind of that same idea as tattoos, right? A lot of people are against tattoos. They're like, it's in the Old Testament. You shouldn't have a tattoo. And then you get to Revelation, and Jesus has a tattoo on his thigh, but don't talk about it. And so in the Old Testament, it was don't act like the pagans. And since the pagans cremated their dead, you shouldn't do that. They also used to tattoo themselves for the dead, so that's why he said do not tattoo yourselves. I think that honestly, if you have the right motivation, your motivation for a tattoo isn't to like worship a dead person, tat it up. I don't care. Pastor Chris has a whole sleeve. I would too. I just can't commit. I have the ADHD, and I'm like, I love that design. I hate that design. That design would be amazing. This is not going to be good. So it's a bad idea to do anything permanently. I think it's the same principle. Something in the Old Testament used to be a way of being separated. And so the question would come up, well, how can God resurrect us if I get cremated? Right? If we're just ash, how would God raise us from the dead to our new bodies? And that's totally normal, but think all throughout the centuries, the Christians who were burned. Right? There were martyrs who were killed for their faith and they were burned at the stake. There were all through history Christians who have died in house fires and in wars through incendiaries, right? There are Christians who have been burned. Even if we bury you in like 200 years, guess what? Ash to ash, dust to dust. We go back to it. And so I can't explain to you exactly how it will happen, but since all of us eventually break down, I know that God can restore a completely decomposed body. He can restore somebody who's cremated to new life, because if he can create all the cosmos seen and unseen with the word, I think he can bring some ashes together. I think that's safe. So, number one, it's cheaper. Number two, plots of land are really expensive in New Jersey. And number three, I just think that's cooler because I don't need a tombstone. So whatever you believe about that, that's okay. Go ahead. You can still go to heaven.